Welcome back to the Aircrown Crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and healthy start to this nice Thursday. I'm actually just arriving back in my apartment in Helsinki, Finland. I am massively jet lagged. Well, not really, but I didn't get much sleep last night. But I saw something in the charts and I had to stop my life and address it. No, I wanted to follow up on the last few days of analysis here because whilst Bitcoin is playing out, our pullback that we spoke about was likely down to about 42,500. Obviously, trading below there right now and even closing some short-term timeframes below there is starting to bring up a higher probability of a bit of a further breakdown, obviously, and changing the picture. So I wanted to follow up on this and essentially address that situation because it is very likely going to be invalidated, I suspect. And in this case, we have several things to be aware of right now. So one, it starts with daily RSI. We do have bearish divergence forming right here. It is obviously not confirmed. As you can see, it will be confirmed with any sort of a closure today, basically below about, let's say, upper $42,000 territory, like 42.8 to 42.9 region. Anywhere below there, very likely, or not very likely, it will be confirmed. On top of that, we do see over here on stochastic momentum, the daily is actually going to be nosediving with any sort of a closure today below 43,727. So the unfortunate thing about that is that, well, that's rather far away right now. And while the short-term timeframes might be setting up for a bit of a bounce, I don't necessarily think that that is going to be concluded by end of day or before the daily closure. So in this case, I want to now in a nuanced sense, address the last like 24 hours where we're setting out, or sorry, I guess it's like 36 to 48 hours, where we're setting out validation conditions for continuation to new targets to the upside, of $48,000 to $50,000. The biggest one was a 4-hour closure above above $45,000 point blank period. But then we also had other softer validation conditions, which were gonna, make that a lot more likely and probably even front runnable with daily closures. I believe yesterday it was above, actually, I forget what it was above, but it was above $44,000. Yeah, now I remember. As per yesterday's video. So that was not fulfilled. So when it doesn't get fulfilled, then that whole idea goes out the wayside. And in this case, I do very likely look for a further retracement here. We do have a nice base right around the 618 Fibonacci retracement. This is just the high to the low of this current segment right here on this nice rally that we did see from about the $35,000 level to the $45,000 level. That is again at 40,450. Below there, however, while I do think that there very likely would be a bounce at the, the 0.5 just below $39,000, but I don't think that things would bottom there. I do think that things would see a further retracement. Now, I'll also address why I don't think that retracement would be, a full-on like catastrophic event. I mean, obviously I can be wrong about that, but we'll address that in a second. But if we do see like a low volatility kind of swing down around these regions, I'd at least be looking at them for, some pretty hefty bounces, if not for anything else, especially on medium-term timeframes. But yeah, if it does lose the 40,450 region, I would be looking lower. I mean, basically into the mid $30,000 territory. Now, to address the reason why I don't think that if it does break down, I don't think that we're going to see like a catastrophic meltdown is simply this: the open interest representing leverage positions. I just don't think that we have, or just from the data alone, it doesn't look like we have the liquidity available for a massive cascade of events where, longs get liquidated down to zero. For reference, when we've seen open interest get above about 13.5 billion, and obviously, well higher than that is a lot more concerning, we have seen, 20% meltdowns or more in the case of our last, all-time high. I mean, that'd be, well, that one kind of explains for itself, right? Anyways, in this case, for reference, and you can backtest this the last year and a half. Actually, it's very, very consistent. In this last set that we saw around 44,500, I believe it is on a closing basis. Open interest was just at around 12.36 billion, which is that's, I mean, I wouldn't say it's high, but it's kind of like the median, if you will. Not super high, not super low, but in this case, when you're looking at those positions to provide downside liquidity, I just don't think it's there for like a full-on meltdown. So I would refrain from getting like super bearish, just personally speaking. I do think it'd be relevant to maybe be looking at something perhaps like this, assuming that those next set of validation conditions are met. But something like this, breaks below again 40,400 or so, wherever that level is right there. comes down, swings around, and then maybe does something like that. If it's going to end up being bullish, you will know by the same condition as before, above $45,000 on a 4-hour closure, nothing less, and preferably more, you know, in this case, to validate targets much higher, or I wouldn't say much higher, but decently higher on your medium and higher term timeframes. In this case, however, I do want to juxtapose this against the shorter term timeframes and also address, actually before that, I want to address daily volatility here too. The reason being that we do see daily BBWP contracted, you know, pretty much all, or not pretty much all the way. It is in single digit percentiles right now, so it's very, very low. Problem with this is that I don't look for momentum oscillators to play out like full major humongous moves until we see both BBWP, most importantly, trending above the moving average on it, and then also momentum oscillators pointed in the same direction as well. When I see that, that's when I look for the big moves. If I don't see that, I look for corrective moves more or less. And in this case, I suppose this one would still kind of fit the bill as that, because this moving average can stay down here for a long time. I mean, respectively, a long time, obviously. All right, now let's address the short-term timeframes and how this kind of plays into it. I mean, for the short-term time, it's actually the same thing as yesterday. Below 41,500 or so, you know, even on a 4-hour closure, I do look for another comeback down to, you know, basically like, what is it, like mid $40,000 territory? Like, maybe it hits 40,450 on that run. Maybe it tries for a bounce at about $41,000. I don't really have a strong opinion on that, to be quite honest with you, but maybe if we peruse some of the other timeframes again. I'm like literally just getting home right now, and I saw this on the charts. How does it go? Like, I saw something crazy in the charts right now. and and here it is. Yeah, you know, probably a little bit of a short-term ebb and flow here. You know, on the very low term time frames, I imagine the very short term time frame, stochastic momentum oscillators are probably crushed here. Actually, not as crushed as what I would have thought. Hourly will turn back up above 42,065. 2 hour will turn back up above 43. Okay, that's not happening, at least on this next closure, I imagine. 3 hours going to turn back up above about 43 as well, and 4 hour will turn up above 44. Yeah, that one's nosediving. I suspect that we probably do trade a little bit lower here. Just checking out the 6 hour and the 12 hour as well. Yeah, 6 hours a nosedive below 44,200. You notice that a lot of these medium-term timeframes are pivoted around our last short-term timeframe breakdown level. So this is good confluence. 12 hour also below 43, basically 200 right there again. So ultimately, while I am probably looking for a bit of a short-term bounce right here, I do think that things will probably trade a little bit lower. The real question is, does Bitcoin start to close below this region right here, even on a 4 hour closure, that being the 40,400-ish region? If we even get a daily below like 41.5, I'd say it's, you know, quite likely that we will see just back into the $30,000 region to begin with. But ultimately, the conditions for, I guess, invalidation in this sense, not that you probably need me to tell them at this point, but it's going to be $45,000, the same thing on a 4 hour. And until Bitcoin reclaims that level, or just, you know, closes a 4 hour dildo above there, well, I mean, I'm looking at this as probably another failed high. I'm curious what the traditional markets are doing. This video is only 7-8 minutes long. Maybe we can go check it out really, really quickly here. Let's go check out NQ, see what this one's doing. Well, this one looks sloppy as fuck. This one looks sloppy as all hell. Yeah, probably does add to confluence of a little bit more downside, but ultimately kind of same thing on this one. You know, if it comes back down in bases just below 14,000, I probably wouldn't, you know, look for like the full meltdown just yet. Yeah, we are seeing some interesting activity in this region to begin with. And again, the higher term timeframes for Bitcoin, they are still showing momentum to the upside here as well, on the weekly specifically and the 5-day as well. And I put a lot of weight on those, but the problem is that how many hourlies, how many dailies, let alone like hourlies and 4 hours, go into a weekly closure? Too many for me to count right now. Anyways, I think that's a good point for me to leave this one off. Just a nice and short and sweet one. I wanted to get this one out here kind of while I'm, well, I guess somewhat jet lagged. Hope this one serves you well. I'll be back on tomorrow, probably not with a live stream. I imagine I'm probably gonna be recovering because it was a sleepless night, as you can imagine, on an almost 8-hour flight. As we had to fly around, like, the fuck was it? We couldn't fly over Kuwait because of obvious reasons, and then also Ukraine as well for other obvious reasons. Anyways, long flight. You probably don't give a fuck about that. That's fine. That's cool. We'll be back on tomorrow nonetheless. And with that said, wishing you well again. Take care and see you hopefully soon.